Today we're going to be installing bed stiffeners on the new 4th Gen Tacoma. To just kind of give you a little background on why we do a bed stiffener, one really good example is the bed rack and the tent and any other gear that you're carrying on top. You wouldn't think that your bed would flare out, but over time as you hit trails and whatnot, you'll actually start to see the bed flare out and you'll see the lines between the tailgate and the bed start to get bigger. And so what we're going to do is from here, we are going to take this bed stiffener that's installed. I'm going to show you how to install it, starting with this and your back plate bracket. And I'm just going to literally walk you through exactly how and where you're going to drill things and how to cinch it up. And it's going to make it a very easy and simple process. Okay, before we start installing the bed stiffeners, we're going to close the tailgate first, and we're going to make sure that the bed has not already flared out. And what you're gonna do to tell that is you're just gonna walk over here and you're gonna check the line of the tailgate with the line of the bed and make sure that they're still parallel. It's pretty easy to see the differences if there's a gap or if one of the sides is flared out. And from there you kind of basically can take a ratchet strap across the bed and you can kind of crank it in, and that can kind of bring the bed back in. But this bed is looking good, so we're gonna drop the tailgate and we're gonna dive right in and start installing everything. So first things first, what we're gonna do is kind of give you an overview. We're gonna need to remove the bed bolt as well as the D-ring. And once we've removed those, we're gonna have to pop out the tail light, and then we'll be able to start drilling holes to install the stiffener. So to show you just kind of how the stiffener sets up, you have what's called a cage nut right here. This is just going to snap into this back plate, just like that. And the way you can tell it's good is if it doesn't pop back out. So that's how the back is gonna go. Now, on your main bracket right here, you have your bolts going through the front plate, and then you got this back plate with the cage nuts. The bed is gonna go right in between these plates. So this is gonna actually be sandwiched between these two. And to get this in, we're gonna have to pop out the tail light and slide this into place, and I'll show you how to do that. And then you're gonna cinch these down, and then you're also gonna come in here and you're gonna need to remove these bolts. You're gonna remove them before you do the install. You'll pull the bolts out, you'll set this in, and then you'll lightly bolt it in, and then we'll get our drill template. Let's talk about the tools that we're gonna use on this project. So I'm gonna start with the drill. This drill is going to be mated with this number 10 drill bit. And the best way to kind of tell what drill bit you're gonna use is just taking a bolt and just comparing sizes on the bolt. So as long as the drill bit's a little bit bigger than the bolt, you should be fine. I like it to be a little bit of a closer fit, and so we're gonna go with this number 10 drill bit size. And from there, you got all your hardware. You are going to be using this T55 and this T40 Torx bolt, along with this 3/8 drive extension and your 3/8 drive ratchet. And you are also going to be using this 7/32 Allen key to basically install the bolts. And this isn't required. I like to use this just because there's a couple of small parts we're going to be fishing out. You can use your finger. This is just a little easier and more convenient. Another thing that is not required is this power ratchet. It just kind of makes the install go a little bit quicker. But on the end of here, we have this 10mm socket, and we're going to be using that to pull the tail lights. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking our T55 Torx bit and our T40 Torx bit, and we're going to pull the bed bolt and the tie down point. So we're just going to start with that. Break this free, and now just to make it go a little easier, I'm going to throw this on our power ratchet. I just have this little flathead screwdriver, and we're just going to kind of fish these parts out, and this is just for the tie down point. It can be a little tricky. A lot of people can get it out with their fingers. I just grab this for ease of use. We're just going to set those to the side for a second. Now that we got those, we're now going to drop our bed stiffener in place. Now, the correct orientation for the bed stiffeners is going to be like this. Kind of the reasoning behind that is so you get a little bit more space from the edge of the bed up to the front. If it's on the inside, you're gonna lose a few inches of space. But what we're gonna do is we are going to drop these bolts back in. And we're just gonna lightly tighten them down until we just kind of get it into a good spot. Just like that. And then we're gonna drop this one back in as well. You don't need to put all the hardware from this back in right now. We'll do that at the end. There we go. Now you can just kind of play with it a little bit. I've left it loose enough where it can just kind of move around a little. Loosen this up just a tiny bit. So you can just kind of shift it around a little easier. And that's pretty good right there. Just make sure that it clears the bed. There will be a little bit of a gap between the bed right here and the face of the tailgate when it's closed. So you shouldn't have to worry too much. Just make sure that it clears. I'm just gonna flip the tailgate up really quick, and we're just gonna make sure that everything sits right. And you can kind of see from in here, you still got a pretty decent gap between the tailgate and the bed channel. We're gonna remove the tail light now. We got this top 10mm bolt and this bottom 10mm bolt. We're just gonna pop those out really quick. Okay, now this is a little bit scary, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna actually just kind of wiggle it a little bit, and the whole thing is gonna pop up like that. Okay, so the reason why that was fighting me so hard is you just got these little metal pins right here. They snap into these pieces, so it's a push fit. So when you're pulling it out, pull this way, give it a nice tug, and it will pop right out. Okay, so you're gonna pop this little fir tree out. This just snaps into the tail light and zip tied on there, just to kind of hold the cable in place. And then you're gonna pull this tab right here. It's got this tab on the top. If you pull the tab and push in on the connector and then pull it out, it'll be a lot easier to release this. But now that we got that out of the way, we can just set the tail light to the side for now. And now we're ready to drill. So now that we got the tail light out of the way, we are going to start drilling the holes. Now a couple things to note, you can kind of see that this is sitting forward a little bit. So if I pull this back, that kind of lines it up with the lines of the truck. But what we can do is we can pull this back here. We can drill the first hole, drop the bolt in, and then once that first bolt is in, then we can get the rest of these. And the reason why I'm kind of doing it that way is with that bolt in there, this won't shift anymore, and you'll still be able to get those other two bolts in, and it'll be a nice clean job. So I'm gonna pull this back a little bit. I'm gonna drill this first top hole. Okay, now that I've kind of got it in a good spot, I'm just gonna pop these back out really quick, and I'm just gonna finish drilling the hole. Now, if you prefer, you can always leave it in place. I just kind of like the idea of pulling this out. Just having the whole thing for the first bolt, I just kind of like that idea better. So I'm just gonna roll with that. Okay, so we're gonna drop the bed stiffener back in and drop the bolts back in. Again, we don't have to get it very tight. We just want them to be in place so when we do put the bolts in, they all line up at the end. Do this too. Okay, and we'll pull this into place. Just gonna drop that first bolt in just like that. Okay, it doesn't even have to be screwed in on the back. It just needs to be pushed in so we can line up the other holes. And we're gonna drill the other two now. Okay, let's get to the next one. Okay, so we have our bed stiffener right here. I'm gonna just demonstrate how this is gonna work before we kind of get into the tail light area. So this is gonna sit just like this one is. This is actually gonna slide into the back, come down, and you're gonna kind of have to hold it in place. You'll have a small gap that it'll fit in, and then you're gonna feed the first bolt through the top and then so on. Okay, so this is going into a pretty tight spot. So you want a hole right here. And this bracket is gonna go in like this, go up, and then slide up to match the holes. It's gonna take a little bit of finagling, but this is kind of the way you have to do it with just all this in the way. Try and be patient. It does take a little bit of time. I'm gonna take it up in here. Now put it into the hole. See if I can kind of work it in there without dropping it. All right, so as I said before, we put this bolt in to not only hold the bracket in place, the bed stiffener, but by it being in there, we can already be putting this bracket, which I'm holding up right now, inside, and it can just lay over the bolt so you know where it needs to go. So now I'm gonna take this 7/32 Allen key, and I'm just gonna start tightening this down. And I can feel it catching the threads, and again, this is very loose right now, but it is cinching on. Okay, so now that we have the first one, I can take my hand out. I'm gonna have to put it back in just to kind of line up the bracket, but we're gonna take our other two bolts, and I'm just gonna look for the hole so I can line it up and thread that in. And I'm gonna keep these all loose too, just so that we can get everything lined up, get the bolts in, and then once all the bolts are threaded and in, then we can tighten them down, and that'll just kind of pull everything together to make it look nice. So now we're gonna go to the bottom. It is not wanting to cinch in for me. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and it may feel like it's not threading in, but if you look at these, you know, these cage nuts, you can see they wiggle around in that bracket. So it could feel like that for a little while. It'll feel like it until it doesn't. But now we're just gonna kind of finish tightening these up a little bit. Kind of get that figured out. So we forgot a washer. So we're actually gonna just throw this washer on here and put it back in so that all three of them have it. And I mean, that's a pretty common thing. It's easier to remember the first time, but we're gonna fix it right now. We've got these kind of finger tight, maybe a little bit more than that. But before we tighten these down all the way, we're gonna pull this tie down point back out, and we're gonna reinstall these washers so that this can actually rotate. So we are going to remove this. Set that there for a second. So the way this is gonna go is you're gonna have this little guy, this bushing is kind of shot, but this is gonna go back down in. Then it's gonna go with this flat washer and then your lock washer. Okay. And I'm trying to line these up just so it's a little easier to put the bolt back in without having to move everything around too much. And then your spacer, just like that. Now, just gonna kind of wiggle it a little bit back and forth. we're just gonna leave it like that for now. Okay, we are now ready to tighten the bed stiffener up all the way. I'm just gonna get these snugged up a little bit. We're just gonna kind of go one at a time, tighten up the loosest one, and then just kind of work our way around. And this is slowly just gonna pull the, it's gonna sandwich the bed and just kind of slowly pull it in. So I'm just kind of trying to disperse the force across the 3 bolts. So now that we've got everything in place, we're just gonna finish tightening everything down. Now it looks like this is gonna stay, once you bolt it down, it's gonna stay where you put it. So just kind of position it where you want it until that's nice and tight. And now we're gonna do the big bolt. Okay, we're gonna reinstall the tail light now. So we're gonna click this back into place. Once that's seated, just give it a little tug by the connector, not by the wires, just to make sure the connector's seated. And then we're gonna snap this little fir tree back in place. And we're gonna pop the tail light back in and then bolt it back down. Once you hear it pop, you know you're good. And we're gonna just tighten the tail lights back in. You don't actually have to make these just insanely tight. I mean, this is just holding the light in place, so just get it snug. You don't have to over tighten it because you could break the plastic of the tail light. And that is how you install the bed stiffener. So we're just gonna vacuum up all the shavings. You can do it however you want. We just have a shop vac we're gonna use. Once everything has been installed, don't forget to do the other side. Everything is the exact same. It's just complete mirror. All the holes, all the bolts, everything is going to be the exact same. So if you watch this side, you'll be able to do the other. All right, guys, so as you can see, the bed stiffener install really wasn't that bad. Just remember how important it is to have bed stiffeners when you have a bed rack and a top tent. It really does kind of just ensure safety and make sure that your bed doesn't start deforming. If you guys like this install, please follow us and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all major social media platforms. And if you guys have any install videos that you want to see, drop them in the comments below and we can try and get some together for you. Thanks.